This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with former Blues defenseman Jamie Rivers and Donnie Fandango of 105.7 The Point.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donnie Fandango, my dude, Jeff Burton, and Jamie Rivers. Mr. Rivers, hello, sir. How are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Can I tell you something that bothers me about our workplace?
Oh, please do. Please share.
All right. And I appreciate it that, I look at this maybe a little different than some other folks, but there's two parts of this.
Wait, there's two?
There's two parts. I do not understand why, when we get a gaggle of free food in the break room, which we do on a fairly regular basis, why nobody can clean up after themselves. Why no one that takes the last piece of anything can throw the box away.
Oh, no.
Why
it's
nobody
just left there. There's carnal damage done.
It drives me absolutely insane. And then also, too, and this one is just gross. As a 47-year-old man, I do not understand why we walk into our main, sort of bathroom back there. And on any given day, it can look like somebody used the restroom in there and didn't know how to clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't understand this.
So if I can speak freely.
Please do. Please.
I also have a beef with our bathroom here. Couple of things. One, to your point, when we walk in and there's just water all over the counter, I'm like, okay, so who washed their hands and just didn't wipe up? Okay, fine, maybe you're in a rush, but it's on a regular basis. And then two is when I walk in to do some business and there's a floater sitting in there, which is a little surprising to me. And three, the one that really gets me is when I look down at the toilet seat and it looks like someone maybe pooped out of their lower back.
Yeah. Thank you.
Donnie, who misses the toilet?
Dude. I
don't understand. How is your aim so poor that you're sitting on the back of the toilet and just letting it fly and there's poop all over the back of the toilet?
So the question that I had for you.
And then how do you leave it there?
Oh, dude. It drives me crazy. But one of the things that I wondered is I was starting to get revved up about this earlier after I went into the bathroom and it looked like a freaking hellscape. But seriously, what's the locker room like for a hockey team? I bet you that it doesn't look like that bathroom, I bet.
No, they're self-policing on that one there. And if there's a regular offender, then yeah.
Kangaroo court kind of something or the other kind of happens to that person. It's dealt with.
Yes, there have been several ways to deal with this. And I remember one, I won't disclose what team or what player or situation exactly, but one player kept just leaving his business and not flushing it. This is before the auto flush time. This is where you got to actually, reach down and hit the plunger.
Yeah.
And so one day that player showed up to the rink and there was a crap sitting on his bench in his stall.
Oh. Well,
just sitting there.
Message sent.
Yep. And he's like, what the hell is this? And somebody said, well, you leave that in the toilet every freaking time we got to deal with it, so deal with that. He flushed after that.
Dude, I feel like
he wasn't very happy about the whole thing. But
I can imagine, man.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's the way to handle it.
It just drives me nuts because we're all grown-ups here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I mean...
I wonder if the women's bathroom is the same. Because I've asked different times, my girlfriend and even my daughters, and sometimes the answer I get is, oh, it's worse.
I've heard that too. Mary has told me that.
And I always pictured it being pristine in there. Because women are so good at, picking up after themselves, cleaning up, making sure. But apparently they're not all that way.
There was an episode of The Office where the ladies are out of the office and they make this thing about going into the women's bathroom, and it's just this whole other world of cleanliness and it's bright, right? Exactly. Well, thank you very much for hearing me out. I just as a grown-up that tries to handle my own business and take care of
literally and figuratively.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It drives me insane. But the first thing that we should have led off with, but my temper got the best of me, is I'm holding a press release in my hand right now from August the 16th of 2023. So about a week ago, the headline, Jamie Rivers named new lead TV analyst for the St. Louis Blues. My man. Congratulations, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
I mean, this is so huge. Obviously it's so huge for you, but man, in a course of a few years, you have really taken the ball, or puck rather, and friggin' ran with it. I mean, just incredible, and it's so impressive. I'm so happy for you, dude.
It's been a wild ride. It really has been. And, I helped out spot duty for probably the last 10 years. But in 2019, and I go back there all the time, I was sitting around wanting to be a part of something, and, Dunk over at 101 was sick, and Anthony Stalter did not have a partner, and the word got around or whatever, and our guy Jeff, called me and said, hey, how interested would you be of just coming in, giving it a shot? He's like, I think you'd be great at it. And he goes, I talked to Haas Newport, who was our guy at the time, and he said he'd be willing to give you a shot. Don't know when or whatever, but he might call you. A couple weeks later, Haas calls me and says, hey, would you be interested in coming in? I said, absolutely. Now, I had never talked all sports. Mm-hmm. Certainly I knew hockey,
right,
but I never talked all sports. So I remember going on a bit of a crash course at that point, called my guy Jimmy Ballgame and said, hey, look, what do I really need to be paying attention to here?
Right.
Of course, he said, listen, it's all about the pitcher and the hitter. In today's game, it's pitcher and the hitter. You learn what they're talking about, the stats, and look up some of the numbers, the important numbers. And so I started doing that. So I got some help with that before my first actual time. And then we got on the air, and it was a great show. We had a lot of fun. Anthony and I it's like we were separated at birth.
Yeah.
It was so easy. It's like I'd known him my whole life.
Great chemistry from the get-go.
Yeah. And so Anthony's like, well, when are you back? I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, well, just keep coming in until they tell you not to. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, just come in. And if they don't want you here, they'll tell you that. And that's that. And so I just kept coming in day after day after day for the 2-hour slot that was in the midday. And then the Blues went on their epic run. When I first came onto the airwaves, they weren't great. It was like, yeesh. So that was kind of tough to talk about right off the hop. How do you criticize the team right away? But then they started to win and do better. And so being a regular on the turn, and then Bally's, Fox Sports Midwest at the time, asked me if I'd be interested in doing every single playoff game for pre and post. Mm-hmm. Now, they said that could be 4 games,
right,
if it's bad, or it could be who knows how many games. I jumped at the opportunity. I was like, yeah, I'll do every game, whatever you need. So at that point, I went from 0 to doing now 2 hours of radio daily, and then heading down to Enterprise Center or Ballpark Village to do pre and post for Blues playoff games. And we know how it ended. They went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, win the Stanley Cup. The rest is history. Following that, Tommy Mattern sat down with me, wanted to find out what my desires were like as far as radio business. Then he built a show, Stalter and Rivers, and the midday show gave us a 4-hour slot, which is crazy. And then moved up to the fast lane and continued to do Bally's, and now lead analyst for Bally's. So the 2019 playoff run, as epic as it was for the Blues to win their first Stanley Cup, it was life-changing for me in my broadcasting career. It took me from sitting at home doing nothing, basically, as far as broadcasting. I still had my company and all that stuff, to where I am now, to where, doing 4 hours of afternoon drive on the Blues radio network, 101 ESPN, and then heading downtown or wherever on the road to do, 70-some games of TV now.
Dude, so one of the things that I just have so much respect for how you talk about going about your business as far as being a professional player, a hockey player, and then I see it as far as the preparation that you put in on 101 every day to your show. I know that the competitive part of you probably looks at this as a bit of a challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
How, man, like how do you prep for this? How will you, you know what I'm saying? Like, how will you work on you getting better at your craft?
Well, I think for me, I've had the luxury of kind of sort of doing this for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. I think 2 years ago, I got like 10 or 11 games for in-game stuff because Panger was doing TNT. Last year, I think I got like 14 games under my belt. So it's not like I'm going into it not knowing what's going on,
right,
which is a huge advantage for me. I know the whole crew, the cameraman, behind the camera, the producers, the directors, like John Kelly. We have a good chemistry. So I've got a good comfort level heading into the season about what I need to do. From there, for me, it's just all about learning still what the team's trying to accomplish. And it was great. Saw Craig Berube today down at the rink. I was skating a bunch of guys, and he came out to say hi, congratulate me. And we were laughing. He's like, this is going to be a lot of fun. He's like, we're going to have a great time. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Well, that's great. So now I'd be able to sit down with Chief or Otter and talk about, what are you trying to accomplish on the forecheck? What are we doing here? When it's right, what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
When it's not, what does it look like? So now as an analyst, I can look at it, dissect it, and when I'm watching these games, I know what I'm supposed to be looking for, and then I can relay that information to the viewer, and that's my job, is to kind of make sure that the people at home understand what they are seeing, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it good? What are they doing properly?
Right.
If it's bad, what could they do differently? And if the opposition's doing something different or something unique, what are they doing? I need to explain that, but I need to do it very quickly. I don't have like the desk, like pre and post, where you can sit there and make a whole segment out of it. I've got like 10 seconds.
You got to turn it around
to be able to get in, make my point, and get out, because John Kelly has to pick up the call, and I don't want to be stepping on his toes.
Right. Man.
So for me, it's just about how can I simplify the information even more and get it to the viewer quickly.
Man, oh man. Dude, this is going to be great. And I kind of joked about this, but I'm kind of really not joking about it. At some point or the other during the season, I am going to get tickets, a couple of rows or a row behind you. And man, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I want you to get your job done effectively, but at the same time, I got to mess with you somehow. Like, it wouldn't be any fun if I didn't. But I think that frozen picture needs to happen of you being serious and doing your job, and me behind you somewhere.
Just being an absolute goofball.
Yeah, exactly.
It absolutely needs to happen.
And I know that this goes without saying, man, and I thought about this immediately after I saw this announcement. Dude, Jeff would be so proud of you. Like, so like he would put it on a T-shirt. My boy is the lead analyst for Fox Sports or for Bally Sports, and he would wear that everywhere. He would be so proud of you and you doing this now, man.
Oh, I know. And look, I owe all of this to Jeff. I really do, because we're going to go way back, mid-90s, when Jeff, Trish, and Tom were the morning show on 105.7. Well, Jim Campbell and I used to go down and do a Friday morning segment or two.
You even did a billboard for us.
Did a billboard for you guys, all that stuff. And that kind of got me going. And Jeff and I became friends at that point. And then, obviously, Jeff went on and do different things from time to time. Different radio shows, stations, and whatnot. And he'd always have me on. We'd talk. And then, for him to kind of not put his neck out there, but he did, saying, hey, look, I got my guy Jamie Rivers in town, and kind of opening that door for me. If he doesn't open that door in 2019, who knows where I'm at?
Yeah.
And so I owe him a massive amount of gratitude for what he was able to do. And I'm just happy I'm able to do this, because I know he always wanted this for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I it's been, last week was a year since we lost Jeff. And so, for the last week or so, I've just been kind of thinking about it. And one of the things that I remembered and made me laugh, and that's one of the really rad parts about it. It's still very sad, and it's still obviously super heartbreaking, but like, the memories that we have with Homeboy, like, they all make me laugh for the most part. So that's pretty great. But I just remember when we went to see him when he was in hospice.
Oh, God.
And that, and whomever it was, and I don't know that they ever found out, sent him that gigantic cardboard penis.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And just like in any other hospice room, this would be so wrong. But for Jeff, it was so right. Like, it was just, dude, it was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Hey, look, he's obviously sorely missed, and I think about Julie and the girls all the time, and I know that life has been very difficult for them, and I can't even imagine how they process things. But I do know, and Julie's great about posting things on Facebook, that I do know that they celebrate him a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tears and there's still some sadness, but they celebrate Jeff a lot, as they should, because that's really what he'd want.
Yeah.
He'd want them to be celebrating him and not, being sad.
Yeah. What was the thing that he told me? We were having a discussion when things were not going great, and we were in the point studio, and we're talking about whatever, and I said, well, dude, how's Julie doing? Is Julie doing okay? And he looks directly at me and he goes, she's fine, man. She doesn't have cancer. like, dude, like, there is no one else. And so, like, I just, man, and part of my recovery or dealing or whatever. It's just talking about it, man. I just love talking
The
about
moment
it.
you start talking about them, that's when they disappear.
Yeah.
And if you don't want that to happen, you got to talk about them.
Yeah, man.
Talk about the good times, the bad times, the fights, the this, the that, the other, whatever it is, man.
Yeah.
Those are memories that keeps it going.
Dude, he was just such the great balance guy.
Oddly enough, I came across a book last week. All this happening. Jeff's 1-year anniversary of his passing, me getting the Bally's job, and then as I'm cleaning out my office, moving some things around, I find a book that Jeff gave me for Christmas a couple of years ago. The book is called Hookers and Blow. It's a children's cartoon book, Donnie. It's about a tow truck and a snowblower, but it's called Hookers and Blow. I laughed like a son of a gun.
Yeah, man.
Because only Jeff could pass that on. And it's actually a children's book. And he did it after we played a game on the Rizzuto show of whether it was an adult film or a children's book.
Very good.
And I would have been like, there's no way that's a children's book. He's like, oh, it is. And he sent it to me. Yep.
Dude.
I'm not getting rid of it. It's one of those things I might gift to people who know Jeff. And like we keep gifting it back and forth every year. Like back and forth.
That's a good one, man.
I think that's fun.
That's a fantastic idea. Well, I want a couple of things too. People have asked, is the podcast going away since you're doing the Bally stuff? No, it's not going away.
No, in fact, Donnie and I are going to introduce ourselves to technology.
Yeah.
And we plan on jumping on some laptops. We're going to talk with our guy Drew here at the station, set up a Zoom link for us, and get us going so that we can podcast anytime, anywhere, any place.
100%. And then with you being out and, on the road, traversing and following our St. Louis Blues, we're going to have Alex Ferrario join in when you're not able or when it's just more convenient. But then also, too, we've got some really great people here in the station. Grant, who works over at 101, is one. Your boy that produces the Fast Lane. Marshy, listen, I have to talk to him on this podcast because he is one of these guys that is so handsome that he tries to make himself look ugly with the mullets and stuff, and it still doesn't work. He's still handsome as hell, and it's you know what? It's really not fair to guys like me. All right,
he was a hell of a hockey player too.
Really?
Yeah. Andrew Marsh played AAA hockey. Al McInnes coached him. And Andrew Marsh was part of the St. Louis Blues AAA team that went up and won the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, which is the biggest tournament in the world for the Pee Wee level. Yeah.
I just thought that he made like a rap album when he was
he did do that too. He was an independent rapper, still looking for a label. However,
right, that happens.
But no, he's a hell of a hockey player. Plays on a men's league team still, and so he knows his stuff.
Dude, that's fantastic. That is fan-freaking-tastic. All right, let's read a couple emails. Wait, I think I only got one.
Want me to read it for you, Donnie?
No. Somehow I printed out single tickets for 9 of the fabulous Fox Theaters 2023 shows.
Or somebody else did, and you just grabbed it off the printer.
No, I think I did this for the Arch, and then I just had it in the wrong stack of preparation.
It's fine, Donnie.
It happens.
We forgive you.
Thank you, man. Hey, Donnie, Jeff, and Jamie, just wanted to send out on this day good vibes to you guys. I know we all need some today with the anniversary of Jeff's passing. I will forever miss that guy's huge heart, quick wit, and love for everything St. Louis, especially our Blues. I've listened to the podcast religiously for years now and even go back to the beginning of it sometimes just to remember how we got to where we are now. He says he has a 3-hour round-trip commute for work, so he's got a lot of time to listen. I think I remember this guy. So 58 days left, so maybe like 51 now, till the season opener. Are there any moves that you guys could see Army doing late in this offseason like he did when we got Falk? I know this seems a bit odd to ask, but I think I'm about to go stir crazy without some kind of hockey news. Normally I'd have the Cards distract me, but we all know how that's going on this year. So what do you think, Jamie? Is there a possibility?
I would say no at this point, but there's a possibility of it happening during training camp.
Really?
Yeah. So I look at it where teams, everybody always thinks they're set. They got the roster, we got the young guys, and then it's inevitable that somebody gets hurt. And so there's a team out there that's going to have a third pair of defensemen that goes down with an injury. The young players that they have aren't quite there yet. They're going to be looking for somebody. And the Blues with 9 defensemen right now, they have a surplus. Mm-hmm. And I could see Army at that point making a deal. But based on the fact that somebody else has either stepped up and taken a spot, like if Perunovic comes and just outshines everybody else for a certain, then it makes player X, Y, or Z expendable. I can see Army making a deal, try to clear up some of that space on the blue line because you don't have enough ice time for 9 guys.
Right.
So you're going to have to do something. So I think that's one that you could look for. I don't see any like deals come like the Justin Falk deal. The dance floor is too crowded as it is. Army's going to be looking to make deals to free up roster spots and free up any kind of cap space that he can.
As it stands right now, with the defense looking essentially the same as it was last year, I go into the season seeing that as problematic. What do you think?
What's the problem for you with it?
Well, just I think overall lack of consistency from virtually all parties concerned. Maybe I don't put Justin Falk in there as much as maybe some of the other guys.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
How did you feel about this defense core the year before in the last quarter of the season, heading into the playoffs, where we beat Minnesota and then pushed it to the brink with Colorado?
I don't exactly remember because my brain is, or my mind, or my memory's not great, but I'm going to bet you that I didn't see an issue like I do now.
Correct.
Just being honest.
Correct. So it's the same group of guys, right? So why can they not go back to being more effective? Why can they not go back to being more consistent?
Listen, absolutely they can. But one of the things that I worry about, all right, is the situation. I feel like it's kind of a Cardinal situation. I won't call it a Blues situation. If Tyler O'Neill plays up to his potential.
Oh, I get it.
If, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's a lot of those ifs.
So if there's an if with Tyler O'Neill, he's really only had one good season. Torrey Krug has had how many good seasons?
That's very true. He is a proven.
Nick Leddy has had how many good seasons?
Same, very much.
Parayko, Falk. Like, these guys, the back of their hockey card tells me they've been pretty damn good hockey players.
Right.
So there's no forgiving last year because it was a bad year. But it was a bad year defensively in its entirety for the Blues.
And not just the defensemen.
Not just them. Now, they did carry their own part in this, and there was way too many empty net goals, too many net front goals, too many things like that happened. That's on them. But I think that to a man, like, they know, and to some degree have taken it personally. And how about Torrey Krug? Rumored to have been asked to waive his no-trade clause. He says, no, I'm not going to Philadelphia. Coming back now to camp this year, how do you think he feels? He wants to stick it where the sun don't shine, right?
Right.
He wants to say, you wanted to trade me? You wanted to trade this as he's quarterbacking maybe a top 10 power play again in the NHL? So he has a lot to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Nick Leddy has a chip on his shoulder. He has a lot to prove. Colton Parayko, you better believe he has a lot to prove. And Justin Falk, he's still, no matter what, he's still, for whatever reason, is playing in the shadow of Alex Pietrangelo. People still, tie those two together. You kept Falk over Petro, which is not necessarily the case, but you don't think he wants to start shutting people up?
Right.
I think that this defense core, I'm not going to say they're going to be one of the best D-cores in the NHL. It's too early to say that. But they're going to be a much improved defensive group overall. And if you do that, when you have Jordan Binnington, who I know some people don't believe in, but I do heavily, and you also have Joel Hofer, who's a hell of a goalie. You do that, your team's going to automatically be a lot better this year.
Anybody that blames what happened last year on Jordan Binnington was not watching this team.
But they do, because the numbers, right? Well, his save percentage.
Can I have been meaning to ask you this for months, and I have completely forgotten about it, and I have completely forgotten his name. But there is an ESPN hockey reporter that I believe is a Blackhawks honk and absolutely freaking hates Jordan Binnington, and now I hate him too. Not Binnington, but this hockey writer. Yeah. And I think you hate him as well.
Is it Greg Wyshynski?
That's him.
I mean, just taking a stab at it.
Yes, that's him. Well, first of all, what did this guy do to initially kind of draw your ear? But I swear to God, he is a Hawks guy, and he hates Binnington. And that's fine that he doesn't like Binnington, but he's not watching. He's not watching.
So I don't hate Greg Wyshynski. I don't. I don't agree with a lot of his takes. And for me, he's a little bit hot take. You know, he throws stuff out there that he knows is going to get a response. Clicks. I can't remember exactly what it is, but the problem that I have with what he puts out there is that he does it from a perspective of like a do-gooder. Like he doesn't like Jordan Binnington for his antics.
Right.
And like all this stuff. Like, dude.
Like this sort of like nose up in the air.
It's just like a lot of things in this world right now when people take a certain stance, even if they're wrong, they continue to have that stance. And I think that's the frustrating part with society in general right now is nobody can actually have a real discussion because nobody will budge or open themselves up for discussion. Greg's that way. He gets a stance on tough guys. He gets a stance on physicality. He gets a stance on goaltending. And it's just like he has no real idea what he's talking about because a lot of the stuff that he alludes to is stuff that happens in the trenches. It's stuff that you can't know unless you've lived it. Now, I'm not saying that reporters and writers and all that don't have a great eye for the game or understand. No, they do. They do. But when you're talking about stuff that happens in the trenches, like blocking shots, physicality, all this stuff, like you have to have lived it. In order to comment on it or to critique somebody on it, you have to know what they're going through in that moment because what happens in those moments is not an analytic. It's not. It's like the desire, the human reaction, the human response, all this stuff. And how can you write about something like that unless you've been in that situation? So that's where I think, for me, he veers off the course a little bit, and that's where we butt heads. As far as the Jordan Binnington thing goes, it's an easy narrative for people.
Yeah.
For someone who
it
doesn't
really
like
is.
him, it's an easy narrative. Well, his numbers weren't good. Okay, but did you see the backdoor tap-in? Yeah, I know, but still, overall, his save percentage wasn't good. Okay. You're right. Fine.
Right. Just going to move on. And
there are the top 5 teams in the NHL. I would argue that if they had their number one goalie go down and they were playing a Game 7 playoff game, they'd want Jordan Binnington in the pipes for them.
100%.
So that tells me all I need to know.
Why would, and this is just me and my, why would the Leafs only sign, or why would Auston Matthews only want to sign for 4 years with the Leafs? Why wouldn't they want to try to, do one of those 8 or 9 year deals that locks him up as a Leaf forever?
Well, two sides to this. The player side, it lets him get another kick at the can 4 years from now.
Okay.
So if he's absolutely tearing it up still 4 years from now, he's making $13 million for the next 4 years. He'll make what, $20 million, maybe. Who knows?
Wow.
So he gets another chance to get back to the negotiating table.
To get a big cash in.
And he'd be unrestricted. So it's not just like negotiating with the Leafs. It's like whoever wants him. Who's the highest bidder? So that's what, for the player, that's what it does. For the organization, what if you guys stink?
Yeah.
What if you guys stink for the next couple of years and you have to go through a complete rebuild because you can't afford all the players that you have right now? You're already in cap hell, as the Toronto Maple Leafs are. So now you're not married to a player for 7 or 8 years. You can go in a completely different direction with your organization 4 years from now.
Man, it's still very, I don't know. I still, as an outsider, and that whole Leafs thing I told you as the season was kind of winding up, it's just so fascinating to me, the sort of New York Yankees of the NHL and them not being able to push over this hump. And it's just so crazy to me that even in the States, how that media focus is there on that team. So I cannot even imagine what it's like in that market, man. I cannot even imagine.
It's intense, to say the least.
To say the least. So how many players I would bet you that a good chunk of the guys are probably in town.
Yeah, there's a number of them. Guys are still kind of in and out. Like Schenner was, he was in for most of the summer. He left this week. I think he went back home for a week to kind of, get his last little relaxation in before the season hits. We've had in between 6 to 9 guys hitting the ice on a pretty daily basis. They take like one day off a week. But yeah, next week will be more guys, and then the young guys start coming in because they've got the prospect tournaments before the real training camp starts, and so it'll go from 6 to 10 to like 40 guys here in the next couple weeks. We'll have 2 sheets going at the same time with practices and scrimmages and all sorts of crap.
Man, that's so awesome. I'm so ready for hockey, man. Like and obviously it has not helped. And it's been this way for the last couple of years with me in Major League Baseball, that I just do not find myself watching other teams like I used to. And so that when the Cardinals aren't aren't good. I'm just not watching baseball at all.
Yeah.
And, dude, I am fiending for the NHL and NFL right now. Like, I am already set up to be disappointed for my Bills, so I'm hoping that my Blues can really kind of help me through what I assume is going to be a real cold, sad winter for my football team. and I think they could even still win 9 or 10 games and still, man, when the end result and what you want is so up there, anything other than that just seems like kind of a letdown at this point. And I'm just concerned. I have many, many concerns. I want to tell folks, if they have not had the opportunity to read Kevin Hayes' tribute to his brother Jimmy in the Players Tribune, I think it was released yesterday.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was beautifully, beautifully well done. And, there's a lot of ways that tons and tons of ways that sports and real life intersect. And I think sometimes we get the idea that athletes and maybe their families, since there is so much money involved, that maybe they don't have the same sort of concerns or the same issues and problems that we do. And that's just not the case. And seeing, just in that article, their dad talking to Jimmy about the issues that he potentially that he saw. I mean, it's a really tremendous article, and I would bet you that even if you're not a hockey fan or a hockey person, it's going to touch you because it's really beautiful the way that it was.
Sport of hockey. It's bigger than any sport at that point. It dives into the human element of it and to exactly like you said, what families deal with. Like, these guys are paid handsomely, there's no doubt, but that doesn't mean life has no problems.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes the more money you have, the bigger your problems are because you have access to more. And when you're playing a sport that is so demanding from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint, and then there's trades and being cut and not being able to find a job, and then the money stops, and then you're addicted to painkillers because your body's a wreck because of the game, and there's so much that goes into it.
And I would assume the answer to this is a big duh and yes, but is the NHL, sports in general, a lot more careful with painkillers, with that kind of thing these days?
Yeah.
Because of, say, the last 10 years and how the opioid crisis just went completely out of control.
Yeah, they've got a better grasp on things now. They try a lot of alternative ways to keep the pain down rather than going right to the top of the food chain and giving guys like Oxycontin or even Vicodin and things like that. There's still situations where guys have to deal with it. You got a knee surgery or a shoulder surgery and the pain is unbearable or whatever, but it's monitored. It's no fault of anybody's way back when, but it wasn't really monitored.
Sure.
It was like, how do I just get this guy back on the ice and how do I keep him going? This works? This makes you feel good? You're fine? Okay, great. Why are you asking me for 20 of them now?
Right.
Well, are you taking them at home? Yeah, well, I get really sore at home too. Oh, okay. And that's how it happens.
Yeah, man. I can't even imagine. Because, man, I mean, like I'm 47, and if I sleep wrong, it's tough to just, get up and walk to the kitchen to get Tylenol.
Yeah.
And that's just me because I'm fat and out of shape. You know what I mean? That's not because I'm putting my body through the ringer every day.
Yeah.
And so it's, man, it's just something so scary, but there was just something so beautiful about that tribute. And then also, too, the way that, the way that he describes their sisters who, viewed them as the top two of the top 5 players in the NHL, because, Kevin does the little things, that kind of thing. It was just so wonderfully sweet. And again, man, I just think that when those instances are brought up and we are able to talk about those things collectively, all of us together,
yep.
I think it helps us realize we're not alone, that we all, one way or the other, we're all kind of dealing with something along those lines. So I absolutely cannot recommend that article in the Players Tribune enough with Kevin Hayes. Well, Mr. Rivers, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We did.
34 minutes, man.
There we go, baby.
We knocked that out. I'm ready to have some actual hockey to talk about. You know what I mean?
Won't be long, buddy.
I need to be mad about something with the St. Louis Blues, and I can't find anything.
You can come poke your nose in at training camp, have some fun.
I think I'm for sure going to do that. I actually today, for the first time in my career, I got a 2023-2024 St. Louis Blues press pass.
Wow, look at you go.
So, my kids are older now, and most of the time that I'm at home, they're like, why are you here? I'm doing my own thing. And so I was talking to Mary, and she was like, you should do that. She's like, then you could be there, you could watch it, and you'll be able to have this stuff to talk about it. It'll be different TV, blah, 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 blah. And I told you, man, my whole thing with this is imposter syndrome, big time. I'm a music guy, man. I'm a music guy that just loves the hell out of sports. And when I get up there and I see the actual journalists and people that should be up there, dude, I feel like a pretender. And I'm just being incredibly honest.
You're bringing tons of blues content to the airwaves here locally, anywhere where you can download a podcast. So if there's blues fans that want content, if you don't watch the games or you're not there, or you don't have a pulse on it, what the hell are they listening for?
Yeah. Man, you get what I'm coming from. The first time
but I need you to just shut up and stop talking that way.
Dude, the first time I walked into the press box, the first person I saw was Doug Armstrong. And dude, he looks intimidating on TV. In real life, he looks about 30 times more intimidating. And so I was just like, not make eye contact. Just walk to the booth. Just walk to the booth. Don't trip on your shoes in front of these guys. But it's, and then also too, being there for a playoff game, I was sitting next to Alex, and something happened. Like the first period was just a train wreck or something. And me just having to sit on my hands and like not being able to yell, not being able to like voice any sort, like that was very difficult, man. Like,
keep yourself in check,
dude, 100%.
Oh yeah.
But I really feel like between you, between Alex, between me, between everything that ESPN has with the Blues, man, we're going to cover this team and have a hell of a freaking ton of fun in which that's doing it.
It's gonna be a fun year, man.
I can't believe this, dude. Like every time that something like this happens, like my mom calls me and she'd be like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, well, thank you, Ma. I appreciate it. But because this stuff, man, like before I was a music guy, I was a sports guy. I was the guy taking around my tape recorder to the rooms in our house to do the Cardinal games when I was like 6 or 7. So like the fact that like this is even a thing, that they ask for a professional picture to put on a press pass for me blows me away, man. I got to not screw this up.
Congratulations, Donnie.
Oh, same to you, Jamie. Same to you. Same to you.
Welcome to the club.
And I bet you're going to have to get a bunch of new suits too. I bet you're going to have to.
I bought a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went and bought a couple. I've got a great suit for opening night here. Fantastic.
I like it. That's one thing I do really appreciate about you, man. You sharpen those things up.
Oh yeah.
Man. You do well.
I like bringing the suit game.
You do that on your own, or does your girl help you?
I buy all the clothes on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does she, like if I have 2 ties to pick from, is she a tiebreaker sometimes? Because mentally I like one of them, but I'll bring another one and see.
Yeah.
And she'll say, well, I like that one or that one. 90% of the time she's picking the same one as me. And then when she doesn't, I go, why? Like, why do you like this one better?
Like you don't believe her.
I want to know why.
Right.
I want to make sure she's actually put some thought into it, Donnie. Not just making me go away by saying that one.
Am I crazy in saying this? But did your girl receive her doctorate, or did she get another degree on top of degrees she already had?
Yeah. So
she's a badass.
My girlfriend is a badass. She's a doctor of chiropractic. So she's a doctor, and she's a clinician at Logan University, basically, shaping the next wave of chiropractors every year. And while doing so, she completed her master's in sports science and rehabilitation.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to quit bitching about being busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I feel like I don't even know if I can talk to her sometimes because I'm not smart enough to talk to her.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
she's a hard worker,
badass.
man. Like, just hard work. We're moving in together right now.
Yeah.
That's a big moment. In fact, the movers are there today.
Oh,
moving
wow.
all their stuff in. And this woman, I pull up after skating the Blues. I got to run my nephew back to the house. His flight's leaving, all this craziness. And this woman's out. She cut all the grass and she's doing the trimming.
Dude.
Before the...
Here's what I love about her is that she doesn't let you give me trouble when we're around each other.
She's on Team Donnie.
Dude, and I love that so much, man. I love that so much. All right, so for our very good pal Jeff Burton, Jamie Rivers again, congratulations, my man. We, as well as the Last Minute Blues podcast listeners, are super freaking proud of you and stoked to see what you do this year. And we'll be back another episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast when we can make it happen. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast. Hear every episode at 101ESPN.com or 1057thepoint.com. Let's go Blues.